Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today, as you guys can see up on the screen, we are going to be talking about Faker. This guy has been talked about a lot recently. I mean, he's always talked about a lot. You know, he has a huge fan base. Everybody knows about him. One of the most recognizable faces, names, just entities in the professional League of Legends scene. Obviously, I think his popularity and just overall just degree of just strength and stuff in the scene has kind of gone down recently over the last couple of years. We haven't really seen him as much at international events. SKT, T1, whatever you want to call him, hasn't been as dominant. Obviously, they don't have the results recently and all that stuff, but Faker is still as recognizable as ever. People still like talking about him. People still like hearing about him. And recently, you know, T1's been going through kind of a weird year. They've had this really weird rotation of players and so many different lineups and everything. They've been struggling to decide on who they're even going to be playing going forward. And they're sitting at I think 6-6 right now overall as their record in the LCK. So it is a weird time for T1. It is a weird time for Faker. It's a weird time for T1 fans, Faker fans, and people all around the world are wondering, what does the future hold for Faker? What is he going to do? What's T1 going to do? In this video today, we're just going to be going over all of the happenings so far this season in the LCK with T1, with Faker, and then just kind of talking about what the future holds, because it is a really interesting discussion and topic, I think, and hopefully you guys will think so too. But before we get into that, I just want to mention real quick, if you guys have not already, please take a second and smash that like button. I would appreciate it so much. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm, and it's one of the best and easiest ways to help support my content and my channel if that's something you are interested in doing. Also, if you have not already, click that subscribe button really quick. Helps you guys stay up to date on all my latest content so you don't miss out on anything we've got going on in the near future, because we're going to have tons of awesome League of Legends content and videos coming your way. With that being said, let's get right into this. This, you know, sparked my interest when I mean, this is a story I've been considering talking about for a while. Obviously, the situation with T1 is something we've it's been on our radar the whole season. Even in the preseason, we weren't exactly sure whether Faker was going to be the outright starter in the mid lane for T1, or whether he was going to be able to win that position over the course of the season, or if Closer was going to be able to win that position over the course of the season. And it's a weird spot, obviously, because Faker has been so synonymous with T1, with SKT, with this brand for so long at this point. But think about it, when we think around to some other teams, we've seen that stuff changing. You know, Bjergsen with TSM, obviously he's gone, he's out of the way. Reckless with Fnatic, he's gone, he's out of the way. Perkz in G2, he's gone, he's out of the way. So while yes, it is so hard to ever kind of just think about a lot of these players and teams ever splitting up, some of these players ever stopping to play and all this, T1 is in a decision where they're going to have to think about the future a little bit. Obviously, Faker isn't going to be able to play forever. He has, you know, military time coming up in the near future. I don't know exactly when that is in the next couple of years, but that's something that's always on the horizon, always something to think about. And they have a 17-year-old kid here in Closer who is showing a lot of promise. He's showing a lot of talent. Obviously, there are the arguments and debates and stuff whether he is better than Faker right now, which I think most people would probably still lean towards Faker, but with some more time, with some more stage time, playoff experience, practice, can Closer get to the point where he's better than Faker in the future, or even just better than this current version of Faker, who I don't think really is that comparable to prime Faker. You know, this is not by far the best mid laner in the world anymore. This is probably not even the best mid laner in Korea, obviously. So we all do have to remember that when we talk about Faker, yes, there is kind of the mystique around him of, you know, like the unkillable demon king, or whatever you want to call him, and all the crazy highlights and moments and stuff we know of Faker from the past. But this guy, in a lot of ways, is not that anymore. Some of it maybe is you know, him peaking a little bit and being on a little bit of a decline. Some of it is the rest of the world catching up with him. He was really just ahead of his time in terms of talent, playmaking, and style and everything, and Korea as a whole was. But that does not mean he's not still a great player. That does not still mean he's not a ton of fun to watch. A lot of people's favorite player, a huge brand around him, huge name. And what's going on with him right now does suck. So LeakerZoo tweeted this out. This was yesterday. Tweeted out, Closer most likely starting again this week. Faker hasn't scrimmed in weeks. If T1 really settle on the roster without Faker, he should just leave. He deserves better than the treatment he's been receiving from the organization that he made. So I did think that was really interesting. Obviously, to see that Faker is not scrimming again this week, and that Closer is most likely going to be starting. If we actually take a look at the T1 match history, we'll see over here on this side, side. Make sure you guys can see it. The last game Faker played was February 19th. So that was about 2 weeks ago at this point. Closer has played the last 7 games in a row. If Faker plays again, or if Closer plays again this week, obviously that'll be like 2 or 3 weeks in a row without Faker getting any stage time. As Leaker Zoo said, it appears he's not even getting scrim time either. So it's not looking good for Faker, at least rounding out the spring split. Maybe between spring and summer, they make some changes. But if you're riding out Closer now towards the end of the spring split into the spring playoffs, why would you not continue to do that into the summer? Obviously, they've gotten to see a ton of Closer over last year and this year, and they must feel pretty comfortable with him if they are just kind of keep riding him out, if they're just going to keep going with him. If we take a look at how this season has gone for the two players so far, Faker has played in a total of 14 games, where Closer has played in a total of 17. So, so far in 2021, it's been pretty 50-50, but again, as of late, Closer has really been closing that gap. Faker at one point had played in more games than him. Now Closer's played in the last 7. It looks like he's going to be playing in the next couple. This gap is going to start to widen. And again, these are the important games. Towards the end of the split, into the playoffs, these are the big games. These are the ones that maybe matter a little bit more. And playing in the more recent games obviously shows us maybe what the team is thinking right now. When we look at the two players, just in terms of like some very, very surface level stats, Faker rocking the 4.36 KDA, Closer with the 3.27. So Faker's stats have probably been a little bit better, but again, there are two different players. There is questions about Closer's champ pool and some different stuff like that. It is, again, just a question between like building for the future or trying to be a little bit more successful right now, and then what player would end up being better over time. I mean, it's really, really interesting, but again, that's not even necessarily what I'm that interested in talking about. If we take a look at things right now for T1, they are currently in 5th place in the LCK, sitting at 6-6. They do have the 4 teams ahead of them. They are only a game back of 3rd place behind Hanwha Life and DRX, but then 3 games behind Gen G, 5 games behind Damwon Gaming. So in the spring split, things aren't looking great. Obviously, you need to get 1st place to go to MSI to get any international competition, to get any international experience, anything like that. And it doesn't seem like they're going to be doing that. I think it would be pretty surprising if they out of nowhere just went on a major run and passed up 4 teams ahead of them. I mean, even in the playoffs, where Damwon has looked like a beast all season. Hanwha Life's been great. Gen G's been great. I mean, it really would be difficult to see T1 pulling out something in the spring split right now. So again, that just kind of gives them all the more reason and all the more incentive to play Closer in the short term, because again, if there's not really that much left to play for in the spring, you'd think they'd want to be building up towards the future. So I do think it makes sense, because again, Closer is just 17 years old, and yes, there's a lot of criticism about him. There is a lot of skeptics and a lot of haters about him, and I totally get it. But also at the same time, it's because T1 has a massive fan base. Faker has a massive fan base. The T1 fans, for the most part, want to see Faker playing. When we take a look at Faker's contract in the LCK contract database, we will see that Faker is going to be a free agent on November 15th, 2021. So this is Faker's last season with T1, at least under contract again. So this means no one really knows what's going on for the future. But if T1 is not even letting him play, there's first going to be the questions of, will they let him go between the spring and summer split? There's going to be a lot of people calling for that, because again, people want to see Faker play, especially if he only has a few years left. If he does have to go do military service, that will most likely be the end of his career. So the retirement of Faker is on the horizon. It's going to be really the end of an era. I mean, so many League of Legends fans right now were introduced to the game and to competitive League of Legends esports at a time where Faker was the guy. He was dominant. He was just the face of LOL esports. So again, that era coming to an end is going to be hard for a lot of people, just like Bjergsen leaving the LCS, just like Doublelift leaving the LCS, just like all the the big rotation and cycle of a lot of the mainstay players we're seeing right now. Losing Faker is going to be a hard one. So people do not want to see him go out like this. They don't just want to see him get benched and then just kind of ride out the season on the bench. People want to see him playing. People want to see what he's got, and at the very least, they want to see their favorite player on stage, whether it's for better or for worse. They don't just want to see him sitting on the bench. So people are going to ask for him to be released, and maybe Faker even himself will ask for himself to be released or traded or something between the spring and summer split, which would be interesting. It would be tough, obviously, for him to go to too good of a team. Obviously, the one thing you have to remember here is that there's going to be so many different suitors. There's going to be, especially if we wait till the end of the season, if we wait till the 2022 off season, every team is going to be going after this guy. I mean, so many Korean teams, but then Chinese teams with all the money they have, wanting a huge name and huge brand like that would be crazy. LCS teams, a ton of them with a ton of money. I mean, people are going to be looking towards like Team Liquid and stuff like that. European teams, it's a little bit harder because the money, they don't have as much money to offer, so it would kind of be hard, I think, to entice Faker to come to Europe, even though Europe is more competitive than the LCS, obviously. But if he has options in Korea and China, those would probably make more sense if it's not to go get a bunch of money in like North America or something like that. So again, it's hard to predict exactly what the future holds for Faker because we don't know if T1's going to let him go, if they're going to trade him away. Because yes, if they do decide Closer is the future, they could trade away Faker. They could release him. They could let him go do whatever he wants to do. And some people would say that's right, that they kind of owe that to Faker for all he's done for the organization and for the LCK and competitive League of Legends esports in general over the past couple of years, to kind of let him end his career the way he wants to let him go out at least fighting with a chance playing. But T1 does not have to do that. Obviously, he is under contract. They can do whatever they want with him. And they, if they release him, they kind of risk him going to another team, making them better and being, competing with them for LCK titles, a chance at Worlds, all that stuff. So there is some risk for T1. Also, just releasing him is a little bit difficult. They would probably want to trade him. They would probably want to get a contract buyout. They'd probably want to get some money or some resources, some assets from another team because, again, there's some teams that would probably offer some crazy, crazy stuff for Faker. It is a little bit more difficult in between spring and summer split just because so many teams already have their roster for the season. So many teams have already built up their rosters and spent the money on their players and stuff, and it would be tough to kind of spend even more money in the middle of the season. So I think it would make more sense in between the off season and the next regular season, but that does make it a little bit tough, obviously, because then we get the question of how much is Faker going to play in the spring's playoffs? How much is he going to play in the summer split? Are we going to see Faker at all anymore in 2021? And then after a full year almost of not getting to play, how good will Faker be in 2022? What will the market for him be? Will top teams even want him? Because, seeing Faker on like a mid-tier team in one of these leagues, that would be kind of depressing and disappointing too. That would kind of suck because obviously he is still, I believe, a great talent. I still believe he is a very, very impressive player, but with how League of Legends is now, you're not going to be able to carry like a mid-tier team by yourself. It's just going to be too difficult. And people really want to see Faker back on the international stage. People want to see at least one last shot at what he's got. They want to see one last chance for him to prove himself, to go make a run at an MSI or at a Worlds or something like that. And obviously, it doesn't seem like T1 is the right situation for him now. It's a really, really unfortunate seems like ending coming up to what has been obviously a great partnership between Faker, between T1. They've done insane things together in the past, obviously most of it under the SKT moniker, but still same organization, same everything going on. But it is crazy, and there's going to be so much speculation. There's going to be so much rumors. To me, the most likely situation scenario how this ends is that Faker will be leaving. Again, I don't know exactly when. My prediction would be come November of 2021 when he is officially a free agent. He can go wherever he wants. But if T1 does want to do him a solid, if they do want to let him go sooner rather than later, if they have decided that Closer is the future for them and they're going to be moving on, I think that would kind of be the most respectful and best move for T1, the best look for the organization, because you don't want to just trap Faker on the bench. You don't want to trap him in like Academy Hell or whatever, because obviously most people would agree he deserves to end his career in a better way than that. But again, saying just what team is going to throw all this money out or make some crazy run at Faker is tough to tell because he's going to get offers from so many different teams. So, I don't necessarily even have a guess or prediction or anything, but I would love to hear what you guys are thinking, because this could really go so many different ways. But again, Closer looks like he's going to be playing for the recent future. Faker now hasn't scrimmed in a couple weeks, hasn't played in a couple weeks. His short-term future on T1 is not looking great. Who knows what will happen in the future, but there is a big question mark. And again, it is a very, very real possibility that we see Faker leaving T1. Does that mean retirement? Does that mean leaving him now? Does that mean leaving him later? Who knows? But this is something that could be happening in the future, and this would be an absolutely massive story, and we're definitely going to be keeping up to date with everything that's going on. If we hear anything new, I'll definitely have a video coming out. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about this whole situation? Should T1 play Faker more? Should they play him all the time? Should they get rid of him between spring and summer split? Should they get rid of him in the offseason? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on anything we talked about in today's video. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content, and hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!